Today I'm going to be talking about the meditative disciplines from different cultural backgrounds and how to be able to implement those in your daily life. The book that I chose for this assignment was The Miracle of Mindfulness from Thich Nhat Hanh. So this book really talked about how to be able to center yourself and be able to really focus on who you are and be able to flow with your body into what you're doing in your daily life. So for the start of this assignment, we needed to come up with a program of meditative practices or just mindfulness practices that would go for about a week. We could do it whenever you wanted, however you wanted. It just needed to be a program, and we needed to be able to create it so that we could implement it in our own lives and have it affect us as we went throughout this week. So for me, my program was pretty small. I only had 2 different methods that I used due to the fact that I don't have much free time, which I talked about in my paper. So the one method that I used was counting one's breath and following one's breath. The other method that I used was the 5 aggregates, which are bodily and physical form, feelings, perceptions, mental functioning, and consciousness. So for the first method, which was counting one's breath and following one's breath, I laid on the floor and just kind of felt how my body was on, just laying there limp, and just focusing on my breathing, how I was breathing in, how I was breathing out, and the amount of time that it took me to breathe in, the amount of time it took me to breathe out, and then comparing those numbers. This method is used to be able to correct your breathing, as those were the words that were used in the book, which normally, I guess, according to the author, people don't breathe in the right way as you should. They breathe kind of more in their stomach than in their chest and their stomach, as the author was talking about. So this method is supposed to be able to help you focus on using your chest and your stomach at the same time in the ways that they're supposed to. So this method doesn't always have to be used when you are just laying on a floor and focusing on your breathing, or sitting in a chair with your eyes closed, meditating and focusing on your breathing. You can do this in your daily life. You can do it while doing chores. You can do it while taking a walk outside. You can do it at work. You can do it just about anywhere. You just have to be able to focus your mind onto how you're breathing, and then just being able to control the way that you're breathing in and breathing out, and counting the amount of time that it takes to breathe in and the amount of time that it takes to breathe out, and then seeing and trying to get that to a higher point to where they're about equal, because that's how your correct breathing should be. Your inhalation count and your exhalation count should be about the same. And usually most people are breathing in a lot more and exhaling a lot faster, or vice versa. Because of going for a walk, your breathing can be a lot faster because you're exercising, or stress can cause your breathing to be out of rhythm. For the 5 aggregates method, you need to be able to really focus on how your body feels and how your physical form feels when you're doing any type of task, or even just meditating in general. You need to really focus on what your body's touching, how relaxed it is, what parts of your body are tensed up, what parts of your body need to be release of any stress, your shoulders hold a lot of your stress throughout the day. You need to be able to relax those to kind of let out and be able to meditate fully. For the second aggregate, which is feelings, you need to be able to understand and acknowledge how you're feeling during a task. If you're starting to feel overwhelmed, or if you're starting to feel stressed, you need to be able to acknowledge that and not just kind of push it aside like you would usually do if you're doing something. And even meditating, you can get a surge of feelings or a surge of just emotions when you're trying to do something, and you need to be able to acknowledge that, understand it, and get through it instead of just kind of pushing it away, so that you can focus on your meditation. The third aggregate is perceptions, which kind of goes along with your feelings, because you need to be able to perceive and understand what you are feeling before you can even acknowledge it and be able to get through it and understand it. The fourth aggregate is mental functioning. So before you really even start your meditation practice or your meditation method for the time being, you should really think about how your mental status is. If you're stressed, if you're having an off day, just kind of all the bad feelings that you could have before, or even all the good feelings that you could have before even going into a meditation, you should be able to just kind of think of it and really bring that into what you are meditating about and what you should really focus on, because your mental functioning can really have an effect on how your meditation goes. If it can be a good one, or how long it should be, or how short it should be, just depending on kind of where you're at. mentally. The last aggregate that I'm going to talk about is consciousness. So to be conscious in what you're doing kind of takes a lot of practice and can be hard sometimes, because in some of the books that we had read throughout this course, one of the examples was when you're driving somewhere that is familiar, like if you're going to work and you go to work every single day, you kind of zone out in a way. Like you still know where you're going, you know you're not going to get into an accident or anything like that, but you're not really focused on the road. You're thinking about like all the other things that could be going on. You're kind of looking out in the scenery. You're not really paying attention to the roads. You're not very conscious of what you're doing. And consciousness plays a big role in meditation because you need to focus on one thing at a time. Even though thoughts and like all this other stuff might come into your mind when you're doing a meditation, you need to be able to kind of acknowledge that it's there, but be able to push it away so you can focus on what you're doing. So your consciousness really plays a big role in how you meditate and being able to get through the process of it. So now I'm going to show you a demonstration of how the first method is done, which is the counting one's breath and following one's breath. I'm going to invite my friend here who is going to demonstrate this method as I'm going to talk about how you get through it and all this other stuff. So, as you can see here, this is my friend. She will be demonstrating the counting one's breath and following one's breath method. She's laying here perfectly flat on her back with her arms by her side. Her feet are not crossed over each other. And she's going to practice the inhalation and exhalation method as I will be talking her through it. She's going to take a deep breath in, 1, 2, 3, 4, and exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so that is the correct breathing as they have the same count. So we're going to try and lengthen it this time to about 6 seconds. Ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So this is pretty much all the counting one's breath and following one's breath method is. There's nothing really much to it. It's simple and easy. So as you can see from that clip, my friend demonstrated the counting one's breath and following one's breath method, which is the one method that I used in my program. The other method you can't really kind of demonstrate because it's kind of more of just a mental process that you go through while you're meditating, which is kind of hard to demonstrate and talk about at the same time. So even though that this is kind of a simple meditation method, it is actually pretty effective. So even if you do this kind of every morning or any chance that you have free time, you're kind of able to center yourself and bring yourself back to reality instead of just all the stresses and all the different things that are taking hold of you throughout the day. So after a couple days of doing this method, just at the specific time that I did the meditation, throughout the day you could eventually see and like realize your different breathings. Just kind of doing like everything that I said before, like different tasks throughout the day, chores at work, you'll notice how you breathe more, and not just when you're meditating. It's kind of more of like a daily practice kind of thing. You just start thinking about how you're breathing and then you're trying to correct it, and then you're counting your breaths and you kind of try and fix it all. So a program like this, which was pretty short, works best for someone like me who has a pretty busy schedule, but someone who has a less busy schedule can create a more detailed program. So for me, this short program over the course of a week didn't really have much of an effect on like how I wanted it to go, but for someone who has more time and has a more detailed program and a lengthier way of being able to go through this method might see better results than I did. For me, my stresses kind of lessened throughout the day. Like I noticed that I wasn't as stressed about work, about all the things that I should or could be doing. But for someone who has a more detailed program, who has more meditation methods that they can practice throughout the day and not just at one point throughout the day, we'll see faster results and better results in, you could say, a span of a week or in a month or in a year. So overall, this assignment did have an effect on me, even though it was slight. I mean, other students might have a different effect on how they felt about this program. Meditation I didn't really think would work for me because I haven't really always thought that religion and meditation could kind of go hand in hand, and I'm not a very religious person to begin with, and I always thought that just you can't really have an effectful meditation like a monk can because they focus mainly on religion. But I was able to just focus on what I needed to do for myself to be able to get through a meditation process, and it kind of worked out pretty well for me.